It's now time for Me and My Roku with host Peter Clay.
Happy Yearaversary.
Incidentally, this is Peter.
So we have a voicemail now from Peter.
Pete, you are not.
Not everybody sounds like Peter Clay.
This is what it's all about, isn't it?
Peter Clay is here today.
Holy crap, it's Peter. Wow. Oh, boy.
Well, hello again, everybody, and welcome to another scintillating, exciting edition of Me and My Roku as we celebrate our Yearaversary. Yes, a year ago tomorrow, I reposted and restarted the podcast Me and My Roku. I did 8 episodes back in 2010, back when I was part of the Radio Affliction Podcast Network. And being a part of it is something I created, which started as a show and then became a network. And then it's been a lot of things, but since 1990, it's been a whole bunch of things, from handing out cassettes to live internet streaming to now podcasts, and now lonely podcast, Me and My Roku. But 1 year strong now, as I started things, because I was getting questions from friends of mine and relatives and in-laws and stuff like that about, oh, God, really like to watch this, but how do I do that? And it's like, well, with your Roku, you can do this. Roku, So instead of having them pay me for such services, I said, hey, I can do a podcast about it. And so instead of them incessantly calling me all the time saying, how do I do this? Or emailing me or texting me, I would say, well, hey, I can give you 20 minutes of my time each week and go, hi, this is what I do and how I do it. And hopefully that helps and maybe confuses you more, or who knows, but at least spark something to try things for themselves. And most people will do their own thing, and that's fine. This is not a do as I say, not as I do, or do as I say, and you will become the Roku master, Roku guru. I don't think I'm that. I'm just a simple guy who's come a long way in just getting out and exploring all these fabulous things. So it's been a fun time. I was looking back at some of the things, even just looking at the headlines of the past year and all that stuff, and realizing how much fun I've had with my Roku. I can only find 2 instances where I was a little saucy on a couple of things, and that was, one, the disappointment of PlayStation Vue going away, and the other one was the audacity of the Weather Channel to have an authentication. I just, that was disappointing. Everything else, though, it has a purpose. Like Stir, I don't have it anymore, but I don't hate it. It's fine. I checked it out, and I could see how I could go down that rabbit hole, but I go on a rabbit hole on other things with a lot of seemingly redundant things, so why would I use Stir when I can go down a hole with Pluto, which we've done in these uncertain times, which I would still like some clarification of when we've had certain times, but that's side issue. So anyway, so 1 whole year, and we've gone from anywhere from the America's Test Kitchen app to Stir to Crunchyroll to CNBC, Hulu versus Netflix, all that good stuff. My Roku LT, having older devices, having them have to be phased out into new ones. And the famous line is, all these things are meant to be broken. Not breaking this, but you're not entitled to anything. You can cut the cord if you want. You can stay with cable if you want and still use a Roku. You can get better deals sometimes if you say, thank you, but I'm going to go away for a while, and then have them come crawling back to you. And sometimes it's a matter as short as 24 hours in some cases. And then there's Netflix who's saying, yeah, we don't need you. We'll just remind you every now and then. You can come back if you want. But no special deals or anything like that. But that's okay. It's good to know it's all there for you whenever you want it. Lots of stuff to get to here, so let's get started.
Na na na, oh na na na, oh yeah.
Okay, so a segment I've kind of added on in the last couple of weeks has been questions. Yes, you can ask me questions. You can email me at meandmyrokupodcast@gmail.com. There's the Facebook page, facebook.com/meandmyroku. Or on Twitter, follow me there at Radio Affliction. You can send me questions there. I get them quite frequently. A lot of them are kind of all the same. A lot of connection issues and a lot of remote issues and a lot of other things. But I try and condense them all down. But when a good one comes along, I like to spread the word because, hey, I deal with that. And I deal with problems too. I have problems too. I'm not immune. Like I said, I'm not an expert, not a guru or anything like that. Things happen, and that's how we learn. But sometimes you do need to ask, or you look things up, and it's fine. It's all good. One of the things been getting as far as connection issues, and about clearing the cache, sometimes you have to do that with your browser every now and then. You have so much history. You've built up so much gunk in there from all the ads and all the other like cookies and stuff like that. And so I went to look on how to clear the cache, and I realized myself I've been doing something all along, and that's just restarting. But I did find this one thing, and I put this on the Facebook page. This is how to clear cache on a Roku. And it said to make sure that the home is selected on the main menu, and then from the remote control, press the following buttons consecutively. Home 5 times, plus up, plus rewind twice, plus fast forward twice. And it'll take about 15 to 30 seconds to clear the cache and then restart. And I just thought to myself, I was like, what am I doing? Am I doing a Madden thing here? It's just like, no, all you have to do is restart or unplug it and leave it alone for like 10 minutes and then hook it back up, and that clears everything out. So it was just that it was actually put on the internet, and I'm just wondering if it was just one of those things where they want to see if anybody would do that or not. That's kind of funny. One question I got was, what is the best Roku to get right now? And that's an interesting, tricky question, but it's actually a good question. If you have if you went to like Costco for some reason or another, or something, you just bought a brand new TV and it's 4K and it's beautiful, your best bet is the Roku Ultra or the Roku soundbar, because that has an Ultra built into it. That's going to give you the most fancy-dancy, beautiful picture that you can get, best quality then. And then there's Roku Premiere, and then there's Roku Express. And those are for like your bedroom TVs, your just run-of-the-mill HD TVs. They'll get HD, some get 4K and all that stuff, depending on the programming and your bandwidth and all that stuff. So the one thing I didn't mention on there, and this is me, and this is part of the Me and My Roku on this. This is just something I avoid. I avoid the sticks. Roku has a stick, Fire TV has a stick. The reason being is, one, you still need to plug it into power, so it's not just something you can just stick in and it powers from the TV or anything like that. And two, that's a lot of electronics compressed into one little thing right next to a TV. So there's a lot of heat going on there. And so that has caused things to kind of shut down and stuff. Now, I've just heard rumors about that. I haven't tried that myself. It's just something I avoid. If it's something, if space is a thing and you just want to, or you just want to take it for on the road or anything along those lines, I understand I'm not saying don't ever do it. But it's just something I avoid myself. Okay, next question. My remote had a problem of losing its pairing. Always could get it repaired, but not anymore. Suggestions from Roku customer service have not helped. Remove batteries, unplug device, change network. Have you had this problem? Any suggestions? Well, not necessarily. I had a problem with pairing my remote, but I caused the problem. What I thought I could do is I could somehow pair my Roku remote with my television. And I guess if that doesn't happen naturally, it doesn't happen. So it just automatically, because my Ultra can just find any TV and boom, it works. And it works with the other TV. So I thought I could do it. It's a Roku 3 and an older TV. And I was trying to see if I can get those two to love each other. And I caused a problem. So I found this little button on the battery compartment. So I took out the back, and by the battery was this button to repair it, and all hell broke loose from there. And all of a sudden the Roku and the remote couldn't find each other anymore. And so I took the batteries out, set it for a little while, and then what worked was realizing I needed new batteries, for one. And then I unplugged the Roku and let that sit for about a few minutes. And then once I hooked everything back together, put the batteries back in the remote and plugged back in the Roku, then a nice fancy thing, enhanced pairing or something like that came on the screen, and they loved each other once again. That's what worked for me on that. So apologize if you've been having problems on that. Sounds like it's been coming and going, and that's not always a good sign. And that's one of those things where maybe the app on a phone or something like that might work better for you on that. One other question here, and that's about billing. Noticing that they're getting a recurring bill for a subscription, and they have no idea where they got it from or how they're doing it. Now, this is an interesting question as far as this goes, and it's sometimes when there's so many services out there, try and keep it down to minimum. So that's what we try and do here in this house. Is one, I use my gift cards as much as possible, but then there always has to be a backup billing. So I'm granted, I'm a little bit of a nerd because here I am on a podcast and all that stuff talking about these things. But what I do is I try and do two things. One, gift cards. Two, I try and do gift cards through Apple is another one. And then three, I put it on a calendar, on an app on the phone. And then when like a day or two before it's supposed to expire, do I need a new gift card? Do I have to have funds available? Do I have to do all these things? Now, that's what I do. Again, a bit nerdy as far as that goes, and a little bit more work than it seems to do. But if you're having a billing problem, very likely Roku isn't the problem. It's the service that you're getting it from. Now, Roku does have some services, some of the things like HBO and Showtime and Epix and CBS All Access and all that stuff that you can do. I try and avoid using Roku on that, although I do have an alternative payment on there just in case, 'cause I think they asked for one. But I don't use Roku for that. So very likely trying to call Roku customer service isn't going to do you any good. They're going to be like, we got nothing here. So you have to check the email that you logged it into and all that stuff. And then if anything, you have to go to your credit card company or something like that to find out how to stop billing on that. So there you have it. Questions on a beautiful, wonderful Me and My Roku. Okay, well, if you've been listening to this show for a year now or so, or even the last week or so, you'll notice I'm not big into the Netflix versus Hulu, Sling versus YouTube TV, or blatant SEO like last week, were the 20 mind-blowing things to try and trick you into clicking onto their stuff and getting. All these things are for discovery, and I typically will do things on my own, and I will decide for myself what I want to watch and how I want to watch and compare for myself. Now, are these things useful as some sort of tool, as a guide to kind of go, which I kind of hope this show is, to kind of spark interest in all that stuff? Well, I'm also not big into rankings, the top 10 streaming stuff like that. So now CNET has come out with the top 101. And they blatantly admit that it should be 102. They forgot the WWE network. But they've ranked 101 streaming services, now all across the board, not just Roku, but everything. Phone, Prime, and anything. And Fire TV, all that stuff. Anything that can be streamed and with whatever device. That was not... Now, how they would rank them is it available on all these things? On all of them? Some of them... Is it just for the phone? Is it just for Roku? Is it just for that? Because anyway, it doesn't really matter. It does. Can we get into a big discussion that Amazon Prime is number 1 and Netflix is number 3? Hulu's number 2 then? We all know Netflix is number 1. They're the king, and everybody knows that. And I have said on this show many times, Netflix is fine. I live completely without it, except for once a year, I'll get it for a month. Binge the crap out of it because there's either a specific show that I want to watch or it's just fun to have for a month or so. And now, would I get it more if there was an easily accessible gift card in some of the programs that I do? Maybe, because, that's how I get Hulu. That's how I get Disney Plus. That's how I get CBS All Access. That's how I get a lot of these things. Apple, so if it goes through Apple, it's a lot easier for me and stuff. So it doesn't matter. But as far as content goes, obviously what they want is to put Amazon number one and have everyone get upset and comment and all that stuff. No, Netflix is number one. No. For me, the content is finally I have a list of things that I can go through and no, like I didn't know what VRV was or Cloud with a K TV was or anything like that. To know that there's some of these things out there that maybe I can put on the program here and say, hey, no, like Kakawa TV. What that I don't know. I didn't know that there was Broadway HD. Because these, and admittedly so, things have gotten a little harder to find just randomly on the Roku for channels. I mean, they have the things for you to search for, and you can search if you're looking for certain. But did I know there was Up Faith or Shout Factory, which is not available? Maybe the Tribeca shortlist. I didn't know. Now I have a list of 101, 102 if you want to throw in the WWE, which I knew was there. The Dove channel. Okay. Hooray. So, yeah. So a lot of the other stuff is just like, is it interesting to know that Pluto's the top ad supported? Tubi's right next to it. Vudu is right there. Hulu Live is the top, live streaming one, so hooray. But then, right there, you got Disney Plus and CBS All Access are like back to back next to each other. And then a couple of things that you notice are like, okay, why are you ranking Peacock and HBO Max when they haven't come out yet? So, yeah. So it's, as any top list goes, there's things that make you go, oh, come on. You're just screeching for content type of thing. So, but on the other hand, I didn't know there was big star movies, I can look these things up and bring these things back to you. Or you can look for yourself. I'll put a link on this on the show notes there wherever you get this podcast and stuff. So, one, I don't get into the arguments in these things, but two, is it nice to have a list of things that now I can search for on me and my Roku.
Yeah.
Okay, kids, gather around. Come a little closer. Safe distance. No kissing. No any of that stuff. Just come around. Let's have a little chit-chat here. Once again, this podcast would not be possible without the fine efforts and support of archive.org, the keepers of the Internet Archive. They do the bandwidth here, and we couldn't do it without them. They're doing fabulous work. We are still in a state of emergency, and so that means the emergency library is still open and available on the Internet Archive at archive.org. And check that out to see what's all available. They would like to know, and they keep it anonymous, what you like and what you are reading and all that stuff. They are fascinated and love the fact that people have reached out to them to borrow those digitized books, and it's a fabulous project. So get a load of that and check that out today at archive.org. And we thank them and we love them for that. And by we I mean me. Also, a lot of the things that I do here, I do in the background and all that stuff. So this here is just a labor of love. I say it this way is I'm not trying to do podcasting as a business. I don't think there's a model for that works real well. Some people have made it work, but it's for me, it's easier to have a business with a podcast. That's my ultimate goal and all that stuff. So I'm doing things in the background and then doing a podcast to help share those things and all that stuff, and maybe to help promote some of those things. And one of those things I do, it gets me gift cards then that I can use for programming for my Roku. And one of the ways I do that is at swagbucks.radioaffliction.com. That takes you directly there, and the referral code is already in there and all that stuff. All you have to do is do that. swagbucks.radioaffliction.com. Check it out for yourself, and it works for you like it does for me. It takes work. Okay. It's not just one of those things where, a lot of it is done in the background and I don't have to do too much, but there's some setup and all that stuff and some things. And, it depends how much you want to share, determines the amount of your reward. But if you do that, that certainly helps support this program and a lot of the things that I do so that I can share them with you. So check that out today, archive.org, for the thanking for the bandwidth and everything that they do, and swagbucks.radioaffliction.com, and that helps me get the programming to help share with you. Check it out today and support me and my Roku. Okay, news and notes. First, not in the Roku universe, in the podcast universe, we had an incident this week where a situation happened where Podcast Addict, which I have used and recommended as an Android way of getting podcasts, was briefly taken off of Google Play, taken out of the store, and it wasn't working on my Android device, if I can talk. It's amazing how talking after a while, even for just 20 minutes, makes my throat go. But anyway, there was some confusion in there that there was some COVID type of stuff and in the tags and all that stuff. And so I guess there's rules about that stuff. So it was briefly taken off. Now, Spotify and everyone else was not an issue. And who knows? But they were briefly off and then put back on. So if you use Podcast Addict and you missed us or anything like that, because we did have a podcast that day, anyway, that's been resolved. However, I have changed my mind as far as a recommendation for Android for podcasts, and that is Google Podcasts. It's been a wonderful thing. It works even on iOS now. I still, if you have an iPhone, recommend getting us on Apple Podcasts. But Google Podcasts is, for any other device, is turned out to be a wonderful thing. Podcast Addict is still good. I appreciated it and all that stuff. So if you've had it, used it, it's fine. Spotify shook up the podcast universe by signing Joe Rogan to an up to $100 million to go exclusive on Spotify beginning September 1st. Fine, good for him. I don't hate him and all that stuff. It's just not something I listen to. It's fine. If people do, and you are a big fan of Joe Rogan, huzzah, huzzah. We're on Spotify. I try and aim for all podcast platforms. I'm trying to spread the word as far as I can. Now, if someone dropped a boatload in my lap, well, they'd have to do it on my lap, an attorney's lap, and the lap of archive.org. But if those three things happened, then okay, fine, I would consider going exclusive. But other than that, I don't see the need. I don't see what that does for Spotify. But hey, if it gets more for them, huzzah. I like Spotify fine. It's been wonderful for us, and we get our own exclusive statistics and stuff like that, and that's fine. It's the same with Apple. Everything else is just an RSS feed, and I see if people download it or not. But I'm not in that game. I'm just in the game of giving love and Roku stuff. Back into the Roku universe, Hulu is doing an upgrade. You may see things different on there. Once again, seems like it was only like a year ago they changed it up. Now they're changing it up again. And all I care about is that it works and it's fine. And if I can get things a little easier, that's fine. It's never been a big deal for me. Okay. Also coming up by this time next week, HBO Max will have arrived, and I am planning on getting that and maybe giving a review. Who knows? It's not up to me what you choose and all that stuff, but if you're looking forward to it, is there some confusion? Like, okay, what is HBO Max now? Do I need HBO and all this stuff? The simple answer is I don't know. I'm going to find out. If I can get it just through my Apple credits, I'm good as gold, and I'll give it a try. Hopefully there's a free trial or anything like that, but even if there's just a discount or anything like that, I'm willing to try anything for a little while at least. Okay, so it starts, it's planning on now. AT&T's been really kind of tricky lately, but it's different from HBO. It's different from HBO Go, and it's different from HBO. It's its own service. It's going to have its own programming, like signature HBO programs will be there, but there's going to be new originals, a complete Warner Brothers library, and I don't know if that means cartoons too, if that's going to compete with Boomerang or anything like that, but Friends is moving over to there. The 2005, the newer editions of Doctor Who is going to be on there. So, and also, now if that didn't get you going, a complete remake of what Zack Snyder intended to do with Justice League. And they've spent $30 million doing this director's cut. I don't know if that's going to make the film better or worse. It was just an okay film to begin with, and so I don't think it can get worse. But how much better can it get? Who knows? I fell for that one time when I watched the Richard Donner cut of Superman 2. And, okay, there was maybe 2 deleted scenes, and then the director was like, oh, I don't remember that. But anyway, that's okay. So, hey, give it a try if you wish. If not, hey, that's okay. And here's a story that I've never heard of before, and it kind of made me laugh, actually. But Netflix is going to be asking inactive members if they want to keep their service. Yes, apparently, people are not disconnecting Netflix. They're not using it, but they're not discontinuing it. There's just some people with Netflix, they just can't seem to let it go. And so I'm going to use it at some point. I might as well just keep it, or I might use it for something, or I don't know. I'm trying to think if there's something that I do that I keep paying for that I don't use. I'm trying to think if there's such a thing. I can't think of anything. But now Netflix is like, okay, we love giving your money, but... so they're going to be sending out emails, I guess, and saying, yeah, you have not used it. So they will eventually, after 60 days, if you've not responded, they will then disconnect you and you won't be charged anymore. So that's very nice of them. An interesting way for a publicly traded company to try and go at things, but I find that a very fascinating thing. Alrighty. Well, I should probably get back to my Roku. I'm starting to get a little itchy, a little twitchy, and my throat is starting to dry up. But that's okay. It's been fun chatting with you. On the show notes here on the Me and My Roku, where you get this podcast, I got some specials in there, including a 7-day free trial of Philo. There's a link in there. Check that out. And the link to how I get gift cards and all that stuff. So check those out and support that. Also want to thank archive.org for their support. We couldn't do it without them. By we, I mean me. You may subscribe to this podcast. That also helps. And subscribing is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spreaker, Spotify, TuneIn, YouTube, iHeartMedia, Podbean, and Radio.com. We have a Facebook page. Check that out at Facebook.com/Me and My Roku. Follow me on Twitter at Radio Affliction and on Instagram at Pierre Argyle. And if you want a more direct connection to me, just email me at meandmyrokupodcast@gmail.com. Hey, I hope you're enjoying you and your Roku as much as I'm enjoying me and my Roku. And I'll be back with you real soon.